This is Fowl Players Radio, your podcast for arts, entertainment, and pop culture. Welcome. My name is Michael Spedden, your host. Every episode features fun, fascinating stories about people in the performing arts, actors, authors, dancers, writers, musicians, athletes, you name it. Folks who are center stage, backstage, on camera, or behind the scenes. Sit back and listen. Let's have some fun. Fowl Players Radio is a proud production of the Fowl Players Group and the official podcast of the Fowl Players of Perryville.
Hello, my name is Gunhild Carling, and you are listening to Fowl Players Radio, and I am interviewed here, so tune in.
Hi, this is Paul Castiglia, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio, the one-stop shop for all your pop culture needs.
Hi, this is Kim of Kim's Crypt, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
Hey folks, Michael Spedden here, Fowl Players Radio. This is a re-release, another best of episode, season 6, episode 23, where I had Andrew Sellon on the show. Andrew and I were in Gotham. I was Dale opposite his Mr. Penn and Mr. Scarface, and he killed me on the show, folks. This was just a wonderful experience, not the getting killed part, but working with Andrew on Gotham. He came over to my dressing room when I first arrived, and he greeted me, welcomed me to the Gotham family. Also got to work with Robin Lord Taylor, got to work with Corey Michael Smith, and just a wonderful cast and crew. And it was just an experience I'll never forget. And in honor of it being 4 years ago, I'm re-releasing this episode to our YouTube channel. The Fowl Players of Perryville will be at 5th Company Brewing on December 10th. Tickets are available in the show notes. If you look in the show notes on the YouTube channel as well as on the audio channel, I'll update that. Season 6, episode 23. You'll see all about how to get tickets for this event. Also, New Year's Eve on the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad, we'll be doing a murder mystery. www.wmsr.com. And make sure you get your tickets for the Polar Express. Bring your kiddos on out to Cumberland. www.wmsr.com. There's plenty of great seats left for our run of Polar Express, which runs through Christmas Eve. So, folks, enjoy the episode, and we will see you next time.
Hello, this is John Piet,
Kevin Schmidt.
And Jerry Bozick.
and we're August, a little band from Virginia. You can hear our story, other stories from the legendary Baltimore, D.C. music scene, and much, much more with Michael Spedden on Fowl Players Radio. You can find it at www.fowlplayersradio.com, on YouTube, and wherever you find podcasts online. Keep rocking.
Hi, this is Bud Becker, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
This is A.D. Adams, and you are tuned in to Fowl Players Radio with your host, Michael Spedden.
Yeah, hi, this is David Simmons from DC Star, and I am just encouraging all of you to tune in to Michael Spedden's show on Fowl Players Radio and love the rock and roll of the past and the art of the future.
So, Andrew Sellon, welcome to the show, my friend. I've been wanting to ask you to do this for a while here. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the man who killed me on Gotham. And
but Andrew, you don't take it personally, right?
I don't take it personally. You know, I think I was the only person on that show who actually died just once. I think so many other people just died, 3, 4, 5 times. You know, what the heck? You know, you're not really dead. What an experience.
One of my favorite lines of Robin's actually was after he finds out that Barbara is in fact not dead, which is outrageous if you saw how Barbara supposedly died at that particular time in the plot line. And he just turns right to the camera with that inimitable Robin style and he goes, "No one stays dead in Gotham." And that just kind of became the signature for the show, and it came in handy for me. So,
I know it came in handy for you. I don't know, maybe I would have had a chance if I wasn't so late in the shooting, But
you never know,
because I think that was the last week that, and then they wrapped it after that, I believe, or maybe the week after or something.
We were the second to last episode shot. Yeah. Okay. The last one was Ben's nightmare sequence episode.
Yeah, because you know something too. I thought that it was going to be aired in the order that it was shot, because
No.
all the indications that I got was that that was like the next to last episode. And thank God I saw you post something on Facebook, or else I would have missed it, because
That'd be awkward.
I know, and I would have had to wait for it to come on, like Netflix or something like that, or wait for the DVD to come out to see it. But what a great experience, and I'd mentioned this to you before. I just really would like to thank you. You guys really, if there was anybody that, if I could do it all over again and break into an episode of network TV with just nicer, friendlier co-stars, I would have done it all again with you three. What a great experience. And so you had been playing this part, and originally, from what I'd heard and a number of things, Mr. Penn, was going to have his time on the show, but then it seems like Mr. Penn ended up kind of taking another turn towards the end and becoming a character that had not been portrayed, from what I understand, in any other, I guess, Batman or DC comic themed show. So could you tell us a bit about that story?
Sure, actually, he had been portrayed in animated versions.
Oh, okay, yeah, I did see that.
But he had not been portrayed. Ventriloquist and Scarface had not yet been. He was pictured in the background of that, what it was, or Teen Titans or whatever that. There was a sort of a junior version of heroes, and he was pictured in the background of an Arkham scene, but it was dead bodies, so it doesn't really count. So I was actually the first live action actor to actually play both Ventriloquist and Scarface, and by a weird set of circumstances, I happened to actually be a ventriloquist, so I got to do everything in real time. So it's a once in a lifetime thing. But I mean, to your point, Mike, with your role, I had the same kind of experience and the same kind of start, because I was only really hired for one episode.
Oh,
that was it. For the season 4 premiere, because they needed somebody for the budding Batman to steal a document from. It had to be someone who worked for the Penguin.
Sure.
And so they invented this character of Penn, who was going to be a general dog's body and really bookkeeper sort of thing. But literally, like, for the casting, they had not even decided on gender.
Sure.
And nothing. Okay. So they just had an audition where they, it's one of the rare circumstances, because you know what auditions are like. Usually they're very tight. and this was one where I walked into the casting office, and the variety of men and women there of all sizes, shapes, and ages. And I just thought, oh, okay, this is wide open here. So we all, went in and gave our best 30 seconds of, who we thought Penn was. And I will always be grateful that they looked at my tape and said, that's Mr. Penn. That's great. Because, who the heck knows, right? And you never know where things are going to go.
Right.
And that was they were a great organization, a great company, because they really were open to what talent brought. So I went in to do the first episode, and they had said to my agent, well, maybe recurring a couple, we'll see. If they said to her, they just said, look, if we like what he does on screen with the role, and if we like working with him on set, we might bring him back once or twice. We'll see. And by the time I had finished shooting that first episode, I think I was on set for like 3 days. They had already made the offer for a couple more episodes. And then it just kind of kept happening, So it was not something I could have seen coming, but the vibe for the show felt so right for me. And I was so psyched to have the opportunity to sort of join their world. I actually gave up 4 months worth of a very good theater contract to do the one episode, not knowing if there would be anything more than that.
Wow.
Which really hurt.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was, a show I would have loved to do with a director who I loved. Everything was like, and then suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, I just got offered an episode of Gotham, and I had to do it. I had to.
Right.
And, it ended up paying off thanks to both the producers and the actors, to your point earlier. The nicest people I've ever worked with. My husband and I always joke that for a cast of sociopaths, they're the nicest people you'll ever meet. And they really were. And they were the producers were very good about protecting that.
Yes, they were. Yeah, I remember. I know what you're talking about there because and even the folks behind the scenes and everything were very nice. I actually ran into a couple of people that were from my hometown that I ended up speaking to on set and everything as well. And so were you a fan of the like Batman comic books and cartoons and movies and things prior to this, or was this something you just kind of got into when you got hired?
Yeah, it was mostly when I got hired. I had seen a couple of the Batman movies. Just a personal thing. I don't love it when they go super dark and nihilistic. I'm always a guy looking for a happier ending. Right. And I also grew up in a household that did not have superhero comics because my mother thought that they were too violent.
Oh, okay.
So I had no frame of reference for them.
Okay.
Gotham had been running, but I had no frame of reference for watching it because I didn't know any of the comics.
Right.
And then I got the audition, and my husband and I looked online and found basically what I think was the end of season 3. I was still able to watch one episode of that, and we were just sitting there with our jaws dropping, going, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!"
Oh yeah.
It's so trippy and operatic, and the sets and the costumes and the camera work. Oh my gosh, it's truly feature film quality all around.
It is. Yeah, I was just amazed. I'm fascinated by the things, not only, with my part of learning my lines and acting and doing the character correctly and, bringing something good to the table, but, in all the things that I've worked on and everything, I've always been fascinated in just watching the camera guys and the special effects and the stunts and just how all these things are done. I mean, I could just sit there and just watch. I could just be a fly in the wall, even if I wasn't an actor, just be fascinated by this, with my audition experience for this one here too, it was actually kind of comical. Because I auditioned for 2 parts in our episode. One of them was the one that I got, Dale. And I had no lines except for,
Right.
Thanks to you,
Sorry about that.
So
it was Mr. Scarface. It wasn't me.
That's right. You were possessed.
I was just following my boss's orders.
That's right. And so my audition for that part was no lines, come in and make dumb faces. Okay, which apparently I'm very good at. The other role that I auditioned for, if you remember, it was not nothing we did. It was another scene where Alfred and young Bruce Wayne were in a tunnel, and there was kind of a humanoid in there. So I had 2 auditions. One was making dumb faces. One was making growls and screams and snarls like the Tasmanian devil. I'm glad I got Dale. I'm glad that I got Dale because, truthfully, that other character, you really, you got like a glimpse of their face, but it was like blurs, a lot of fists and claws and things being thrown around. So I'm actually glad I got, the part of Dale and everything. And, that set was just really amazing too. How they had that set up and, just how, the set was set up and everying. Really, just amazing. Really.
Yeah,
just
their
amazing.
attention to detail is incredible.
Yeah. Out of, just one thing I wanted to mention, that they told me was all those books were real. They were not IKEA books. They were not furniture store books.
No.
Every last one of them was real, and they were all, old.
That's what I'm saying. They take it all, so seriously. They really are artists. I would walk around there. If I wasn't shooting and I wasn't needed, I'd look around sometimes at the other sets for other things that, I wasn't in. And I was always, it just took my breath away to see the quality of the work, whether they were doing an Art Deco, stunning building interior, or whether they were doing some ramshackle, basically haunted housey looking rundown home, or you never knew what. You'd turn the corner on one of the two sound stages and you'd be like, oh my gosh, you would literally look at this, and it made me wish that there was some kind of museum where the work of the set designers and decorators and props people could really be seen and appreciated by fans. Because let's face it, Gotham had such a spectacular group of fans, and I think they would have been really, really in heaven walking around on those sets and up close seeing how good they were.
I know. When we were taking breaks and things like that, I'd kind of look around and I was just really in awe of what these folks were able to build. I mean, they didn't seem to skimp on anything. Yeah. And they were just the detail and just how well things were built. I mean, because we spent a lot of time in Sirens nightclub when we weren't filming,
right?
And so we're all in there, just sitting on those seats and everything. And I mean, you would never know, because they had it, when you would look out the window, everything was just built the way it was, and you'd look out the window and you'd actually think you were on the 10th floor of a building, looking out at the city when it was, a backdrop and everything. And, just such, I mean, I'm fascinated by these things. I could just listen to those guys. I could watch them work and listen to them talk just all the time, just all the time.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I used to love, honestly was incredibly lucky with the various directors that I worked with on my episodes across seasons 4 and 5.
Yeah.
And each of them brought, different things to the table. But during little downtimes in between, listening to Danny Cannon talk to the camera A and camera B guys, just the finer points of why he wanted to use a particular lens to achieve a certain effect, and conferring with them and this and that. The level of artistry in those conversations was just fascinating to me, because of course I haven't a clue between, other than, okay, that's 50 millimeter and that's not, and these people were just, truly artists in terms of what they wanted to do and capture, and which lens was going to give them exactly the feeling. And that's what it came down to, the feeling that they wanted that scene to evoke, that shot to evoke.
Yeah.
Really, really wonderful talent to be around.
It sure was. I think the fellow that directed it, that was another Baltimore connection I had, because Ken Fink, who directed our episode, he had directed a lot of, he had directed a number of episodes of Homicide, from, down in my hometown and everything. And, I learned a lot from him too. From him, and, especially, after, the part, because I got squibbed, and, then, when you shot me, and then, the fall, and that was pretty funny. The fella that, the stunt man that came in to help me and everything, I had, knee pads on, elbow pads on, a big giant mat to fall on, and earplugs. And, the bang wasn't that loud, but of course, precautions are required. And,
sure.
So I would fall, and I mean, with my gigantic self, falling down and getting back up is not like a one-step process. Can be a pretty complicated endeavor sometimes. So, bang, I go down. Then I got to pull the earplugs out and stand up real quick and listen to the director. And it was pretty funny, but like I said, it was just a wonderful, wonderful learning experience and everything. And like I said, I couldn't have chosen 3 better guys to do it with.
We all made a good team, and that's really what the vibe was. Whenever people ask me, I'm like, look, I'm not making it up. I didn't meet a single unpleasant person anywhere on that set. Not in the office, not on set, not in the crews, not in the makeup or hair, nothing. Everybody wanted to be there. Everybody was top drawer. and they were having the time of their lives. They were working their butts off.
Oh yeah.
But they were loving it.
They were.
You know, there was a real love of what was going on. And, you know, Danny still posts on Instagram, you know, pictures about missing his Gotham fans and his Gotham family and his Gotham experience, that whole world they created.
Mm-hmm.
There's not going to be anything else quite like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had, you know, I had people reach out to me, you know, on Facebook and a couple of the other ones. And, I had a number of people, you know, ask me, you know, in other countries for autographed pictures, and what was I in the show for maybe, you know, one scene with, you know, 4 or 5 different segments in it, you know, and I guess I'm a collector's item to some folks here on this earth, you know, but hey, it was an honor to do that, you know, it really, and you know, you've been performing for a long time too. You know, when somebody says something nice to you about a performance or comes over and compliments you after a show, or somebody you don't even know. I mean, you could be, you know, after a play, you know, you could be out there greeting your friends after the show in the lobby and talking, and, you know, somebody will come over and say something nice to you. I mean, doesn't that really hit you hard? It's just like a nice, just an ecstatic feeling, you know?
Well, it's lovely because it tells you that what you were trying to share, somebody got, and that's why we're doing it.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, it's that validation that says, okay, you're with me. You know, and it's trickier if it's TV or film, because obviously you don't typically have a live audience. In the theater, you're getting the reactions as the show goes along, and you know what the relationship is with the audience. When you're shooting TV and film, you know, you're basically in a bubble, and then it goes out to the audience, and then you see what they thought of it. So you never know. I mean, I was nervous for the same sort of reasons. When Mr. Penn was going to be, you know, airing in episode 401, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, what are the fans going to think of this new character? You know, and a couple of people were dismissive, and a bunch of other people were like, oh no, there's all kinds of possibilities here. We want to see more of him. And then one of them who's I'm still in touch with, you know, these days, one of the fans who first picked up on Mr. Penn was the first person to tweet me and say, please tell me you're going to turn into the ventriloquist. And I'm like looking at this tweet and going, I have no idea who she's talking about. So I had to look it up, and I, you know, went on the DC website, fan website, and I found out all about the ventriloquist. And literally it was one of those just freaky things where I'm reading this description, and the character of Arnold Wesker, as he's known in the comics, who becomes the ventriloquist, he was literally my age, my height, and my weight. And I was just like, oh, come on. This is too crazy. You know, and that's at that point I would start to go into you know, one of the producers and mention at a table, we'd say, hey, you know, people are asking if I'm going to turn into the ventriloquist. Did you know that I actually am a ventriloquist? And didn't really get any traction until they were heading in towards season 5.
Right.
And then they decided, by then, you know, Mr. Penn had caught on, you know, and due in no small part to the fact that Robin and I just had a great time together. And you worked with Robin, so you know, I mean, Robin and Corey are such a joy. But that was literally the episode you and I did together was the only episode I got to do with Corey.
Right.
So at least I got to do one with him, but Robin and I got to do a bunch after all, since I was his right-hand man. But just the fun that we had, the back and forth rapport, and let's face it, with all the deaths and horrors of Gotham life, having some comic relief turned out to be a good thing for the recipe. Oh yeah. But then they decided, going into season 5, because their arc was always planning for 7 seasons. That was their intent from the get-go.
Okay.
And so they were already thinking along those lines, and they were like, okay, well, tell you what, pieces are falling into place now. They had been trying to figure out how to introduce the ventriloquist. But he's a tricky one, because how threatening is he really? This dude with a ventriloquist dummy who's deadly. You know, he's one of the more, even in a world of surreal villains, he's a particularly surreal villain. And so there were producers who were more eager than others, but the fans really wanted him because the ventriloquist was very popular in the comics and also in the animated series.
Right.
So they were like, you know what? We can actually make this happen. And the irony is they were having discussions about turning me into the ventriloquist as of season 5 and making the ventriloquist a recurring villain, like Poison Ivy or Mr. Freeze. Just popping up every now and then through the rest of the series without knowing that I actually was a ventriloquist. Right. So they thought they were going to have to dub all of it or do it afterwards, And, it just became kind of crazy because just as pieces were falling into place is when Fox decided to cancel the show. Right. And then the game changed totally. And they were like, yeah, we're sorry, but we don't have time. We're not getting season 6. We're not getting season 7. And we're only getting 10, not 22 episodes to wrap this whole thing up. So they had to focus on turning, young Bruce Wayne into Batman in 10 episodes, which was not the original game plan by a long shot. And in the, part of the fallout of that, the collateral damage was they were like, we don't have time, so we're going to kill you off instead. So here I am on the cusp of becoming like a recurring supervillain. And suddenly instead I'm just going to be dead. Right. Yeah. So I totally hear where you're coming from as Dale. Yeah. It's one of those things of, oh, okay. So I'm just going to die instead. Right. But it was so hard because by then, yes, I'm only a guest star, but I'd done 9 episodes by then over the 2 seasons, and I loved these people, and I fit in really well there. And when people found out I was going to be killed, literally crew people were coming up to me and shaking my hand and saying, I've read the script. It's not right. It's not fair. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But, they did what they felt they had to do so that they could clear out characters, and focus more on the Batman plot. Right. But then it was purely coincidence or whatever it was that when the producers had kept going to Fox and saying, oh, come on. And literally while they were shooting the finale of the whole series, Fox suddenly turned around and said, oh, okay, you can have 2 more episodes. And Mike, that is the only reason you and I met.
Yeah, I know.
It's because they said, hey, what the heck? You can have 2 more, go and do something with them. But they'd already worked out the plot. The arc of everything was already done, and they were shooting the finale already. They couldn't rewrite the finale. It was already being shot. So they had to come up with 2 standalone episodes that they could insert earlier in the timeline that wouldn't affect the outcome that they had already been shooting.
Oh, okay. I
see. That's why the order was what it was. Because they had to honor the fact that, that's why I couldn't be in the finale because they'd already shot the finale.
Right. Okay.
Which is unfortunate, but timing is everything,
Right. I know.
But to their credit, and this is again why I say what an amazing group of artists and just people, my favorite kind of people to work with who have such talent, but they're also completely open to what's going on around them. They're really very much of the whoever has the best idea wins mentality. And, when a friend of mine on the production team tipped me off that Fox had ordered 2 more episodes, I immediately went to John Stevens, our fabulous showrunner, and I just wrote to him and I said, hey, we could still do this, even if it's just putting me in a room with a dummy so that they make a connection and say that, oh, he's sooner or later down the road, that guy will turn into the ventriloquist, throw something to the fans so that they would feel like at least the character was touched on. And, I was a little obsessive about not wanting to be dead in that show. So I'd been writing some sample scenes about how I might still be alive.
Yeah.
And I had a photograph that I'd taken of myself with one of my ventriloquist dummies, that I was basically saving until after I was dead on the show so that I could post that to share with fans to say, look, I'm sorry this didn't happen, but maybe it would have looked something like this, you know?
Right.
And so I sent the picture to John Stevens and I said, look, I really am a ventriloquist. Sometimes things are just fate.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we can still just go for it, even if it's just a fleeting little passing one scene, just to give that to fans before the show wraps up. And, you know, bless his heart, he emailed me back very shortly thereafter, and he said, you know, whatever happens, thank you so much for everything you've already done. And he said, actually, I think it's safe to say that the ventriloquist is back on the table, and I'll let you know. And I was like, holy moly.
Nice.
And then 2 days later, my agent called me, and she was like, can you explain how you're not dead? And I was like, okay, we'll sit down because it's a whopper. You know, and that was that. And I mean, you saw the thing. It wasn't just a passing scene. It was a focal part of that episode.
It really was. It really was.
You know, and it made fans really, really happy, which is our goal.
Yeah, it really did. It really did. And like I said, I was just fascinated, and I really loved how you played that part too, because I could see, you know how that, that Mr. Scarface had kind of taken you over, I mean, almost kind of like an external parasite, almost some sort of like a possession there. And you looked absolutely mortified that he had done this, but you couldn't escape from it and everything. And even that look that you gave me when you turned to shoot me, you're like, please forgive me, or whatever you said, I'm so sorry, or something like that. And then bam. And then, of course, I chime right in with my dumb face again and and grunt and hit the ground and everything. But I mean, you did such a nice job with, all the parts that you did and everything. I mean, I really, I got to say, not only in seeing the production areas and everything too, just watching the three of you guys do your parts, I really went to school. I really went to school during that, and I have you guys to thank for that, I
learned a lot on that set too. I really did. It's just a great, great bunch of people.
Yeah. One thing I learned is that not all the food is fake on the set.
Are you kidding? No.
Do you remember, I don't know if you were down yet, but we were getting ready to start rehearsing. And of course they made me, the big doofy dumb guy. And they gave me, I was wearing high waters and, my sleeves were too short, ill-fitting clothing. And, so we were standing in, because, Robin and I come in those French doors. And, he comes in and greets, Corey. And I was behind him with a tray of food, and it was grapes. It was a smelly type of cheese. And it was sardines. And I think there may have been like a little tin of anchovies on it. I guess that was to getting into things maybe the penguin would like, So, so I'm
and that's the kind of thing they would think about too.
Right.
That level of detail.
Right. So I'm standing behind him, and I'm a foot taller than he is. I mean, you saw, you remember how tall I am.
You towered over all of us,
except for Corey, I guess. But
Corey's pretty tall, but still.
Yeah. So I'm standing there behind Robin, and he turned around to say something to somebody behind me, and he was nose level with a tin of open sardines. Okay, so he gets this sour look on his face and looks at me. He's like, "Oh God, do you ever eat that stuff?" And I said, I was like, well, once a year I'll go out and get a can of sardines for laughs. What the heck, And I do eat anchovies every 5 years on pizza if I'm in a daring mood, And he was like, "Man, you eat that stuff?" And I said, "Well, I mean, it's not date food. It's not every day, but once in a while." And he kind of started laughing, and then, he was he was just real friendly guy too. He and Corey are a couple of characters offset.
They're
too.
fabulous.
Yeah. They were funny, and like it really put me at ease too, because I mean, if I wouldn't have had friendly co-stars or scene partners,
that's the thing. It's and I certainly walked on sets where that didn't happen. But I had the same experience when I went to the table read for episode 401, my first, and as far as I knew, was going to be my only episode. And, I had the same kind of vibe you did. Here I am, I'm at Steiner Studios. There's all of these people who are, it's their start of their fourth season. They're in a great mood and they all know each other. They're all the best of friends. And I'm just this guy who's showing up for one episode and then probably vanishing into the mist again.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and I'm an introvert to begin with. So it's like, I should be going around and introducing myself or something. And while I'm standing there thinking that, Cameron came in and she was just saying hello to everybody and hugging and kissing and stuff like that. And then she just made her way around the table. She got up to me and she just gave me a big hug and she said, "Welcome." And I was like, holy moly.
Yeah.
This is a great bunch of people. And it really is.
Right. Well, that again, that's, you came over and you greeted me, you knocked on my door and said hello, you introduced yourself. And then, we talked for a little bit and then we had to go get dressed and get our hair done and all that. And, and God, I remember how they did my hair for that. I mean, they had so much spray and gel in my hair. You could have broken a crowbar over my head. They had my hair so hard, but
the hair and makeup people were so amazing.
But they were great. They were
just
great.
Amazing.
And then, so after I meet you, and then I was walking by, and I saw Robin in the next room, and he was they were getting him together, and he looked over, he smiled and waved to me. I guess he must have known I was the new guy. And, just very friendly as well, and Corey was very nice, like I said, I can't say enough about that, but, it was like I said, just, and I had, a very similar experience on the, right after Gotham, I got the J.G. Wentworth commercial, and everybody was just wonderful there. And then after that, I got the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt movie, and, it was the same experience. Everybody was just delightful, very welcoming, very friendly. And
I have to say, I think that, you hear stories, but I don't know. The sets I've been on, sure, sometimes you run into a star that's a little more distant than need be. But, they're doing whatever they feel they need to do.
Right.
But by and large, every set I've walked onto, people have been really very nice, very decent. And, I still have to put the Gotham Company at the top of that list. As fabulous as everyone else has been on the sets I've been on, that was a really special bunch of people. And they protected that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I guess another thing, too, it's called being professional, Because, again, before I had Gotham, I had just signed with my manager. I'd only been with her, for a couple of months. And before that, I'd done some movies and commercials that were local to Maryland, just a suite of people and everything, but they weren't, as widely distributed and as well known as, Gotham and everything else. But, I have to say, I have no complaints about anybody, that I've worked with in those productions or, I guess, professional ones that I've done since then, so.
Exactly. I mean, most people who are at that level, they're there because they're good and they're there because they want to be there.
Absolutely.
I've certainly seen people be written out of shows, if they're not super content on set.
Right.
That can happen. But by and large, what you see is a bunch of people who are really clicking. And they're really a team, and they're really there for each other, and that's what makes a set fun.
You're right. I've heard a lot of stories about that kind of thing, which I would never dare repeat. I've had a lot of I've met I've been working with a publicist from Hollywood the last few months, a fellow Steve Joyner, and he's lined me up with a number of celebrity a couple of people like Carl Gottlieb, who wrote Jaws. John D. Hancock, the director of Bang the Drum Slowly and Let's Scare Jessica to Death, if you remember those movies. And I've heard some things about which I would never dare repeat, but those things do happen. People do get written off. They do get removed. Sometimes it happens for no fault of their own, but more often than not, that there is something bad going on that a lot of people don't hear about. So yep. So wow. So very interesting. So outside of Gotham, you've done lots of other work here. I was looking, at your resume and on your IMDb page, and you were in a touring production of Cheers based on the show. Is that correct?
Yes, it was. It was based on the first season of the classic TV show, and it was really good. We did not get the reception that we would have liked, and unfortunately started the tour right around the time Hamilton opened.
Oh,
and
okay.
No one was really paying attention to much of anything besides Hamilton.
Yeah.
We got to Chicago for the second, city on our intended 9-month tour, which ended up being far shorter. And Hamilton literally just basically wiped us off the map because no one wanted to see or hear anything that wasn't Hamilton in Chicago right then.
Yeah.
And it's like the ebb and flow of cultural things sometimes. I mean, you think that, Chorus Line came out and then there was a newspaper strike, and there's crazy things happen and good things go. Sooner or later things come around. The Cheers production, all I can say is it was a director who I love, Matt Lenz, who I'd worked with before. And just such a great bunch of talent as far as the cast and designers. And it was a charming, funny production that really did honor the original show in very high quality.
Yeah.
The set was amazing. I mean, the set was literally, frankly, it was nicer than the actual bar in which the show is based, which we saw when we were in Boston, which is very nice. But oh my gosh, our set was incredible.
Right.
All the working waterworks. But the thing is, you never know. Sometimes it's a timing thing as to whether a show gets embraced or not. It's not that it wasn't good quality; it was really a delight. But timing is a factor in this business.
No, it sure is. Sometimes it's just a matter, again, bad timing or unfortunate events. There's all kinds of things outside of people's control sometimes that just really, can be a deciding factor, make things go the wrong direction. You've also performed at the Jupiter Theater several times, as my wife did. I was telling my wife that you were performing there, and she was thrilled.
I'm actually looking at a picture of it's the production photo of the cast and crew of The Mystery of Edwin Drood, which is the show I did just a year ago this time. In fact, we started rehearsals for Drood on my birthday a year ago.
Yep.
Which was last week.
Speaking of which, happy
been very
belated.
much in my mind because that was a terrific production.
Yep. Speaking of which, happy belated, by the way.
Oh, thank you. But it's a sobering thing because my birthday hit and I woke up and I was, someone else in the cast posted about Drew, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right. A year ago, I was starting rehearsals for this, what turned out to be an amazing production with an amazing company of lovely, lovely people. We're all still very much in touch now. And, who knows when we're going to have that again. It's the whole pandemic thing has put so many lives on hold in ways nobody could have foreseen.
I know.
But yeah, the Maltz Jupiter is just an amazing place. Andrew Cato is just incredible in the way he's been guiding that company to just even more amazing things. And now they've got this incredible, really massive upgrading going on to the building itself, despite the pandemic.
Right.
They're being really smart about, it's like, well, if we're going to close down anyway, why don't we fast track some parts of this renovation and do that now?
Sure.
They're just really, really smart about what can we do so that we're able to be ready for our audience as soon as it becomes safe enough to do that again. But yeah, I did. The first show I did for them was the 39 Steps, which was one of the hardest shows I've ever done. That was like, I would imagine what playing soccer must be like in terms of generating sweat.
Oh, I bet.
But it was a blast. It was a blast. And then I starred in a 30th anniversary production of The Foreigner for them, which was where I met Matt Lenz, actually.
Oh, okay.
Which was a joy. And then just this past year, working for Jen Werner, directing Drood, and Rupert Holmes, who wrote the show, came and saw it and was really, really happy. And that's always good to see. If you can make the writer happy, you've done something good.
Absolutely. I know. There's you don't want to tick off the writers. You want to get on their good side. Definitely.
Exactly. If you're working with living writers, please them.
Absolutely. I had I had in a previous episode I had a guest who had talked about working with Tennessee Williams and how.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah. Woo boy, that was the John D. Churchill episode. If you want to tune in and check that one out, dear listeners. But yeah. So you've also done a lot of Shakespeare in the past. You do.
Yes.
I've done some in the past myself. The parts that I've done have been Twelfth Night. I was the captain. And I also had a small part as the holy man a little bit later on in there.
Sure.
And I've also done the Duke of Venice in Othello.
Okay.
And then, and it wasn't Shakespeare. It was actually a John Ford play that we kind of did in conjunction with Twelfth Night. It was at a theater in D.C. called 4615 Theater. And I played Donato in 'Tis Pity She's a Whore.
Oh,
so, yeah.
I love that play.
Yeah, that was a great show. That was a really great show.
It's a blast.
Yeah.
Very twisted show.
Yes, it is. It's like a Quentin Tarantino movie almost set in
That's the thing.
1500s.
It's like people are so shocked by some of the stuff you see in movies now. I'm like, well, if you knew Jacobean drama, it's there. It's all there.
Yeah. And
the outrages, the violence, it's just, wow.
Yeah,
crazy drama.
Yeah, my wife and I were in both of those shows, so it was interesting how we did it. It was like on a Friday night we would do 'Tis Pity, and then the next day on Saturday we would do Twelfth Night and then 'Tis Pity, and then Sunday we would do 'Tis Pity and then Twelfth Night and then 'Tis Pity again. I mean, we were rocking and rolling with that.
The joy of rotating rep. When I was down at Oslo Rep, I did 3 shows out of the 4 that were in rotation. And let me tell you, if I wasn't on stage, I was basically sleeping on the sofa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rotating rep is a killer. It's great. It's an actor's dream. It's actually what I trained to do when I was in graduate school. I trained for a life in rep, and now there's very few rep companies left. But again, just the climate.
Right. And here I was, I was just a local band guy who had gotten into acting a couple of years ago, and I was just finding myself being asked to do different things from time to time, and I ended up meeting Jordan Friend. We were going to play together an Agatha Christie thing, and he liked me and asked me to come out for some other stuff. But he was an Ithaca theater grad. And a lot of the other cast members were his schoolmates. And I'll tell you what, welcome to the pros with those guys, man. They, that is definitely a great theater program there. And I really learned a lot from those youngsters too. They were all, a lot younger than me. But so what are the Shakespeares that you've done? I know you've had a couple of interesting projects with it lately.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a bunch over the years, and I would do Shakespeare all day, every day if I could. But basically the last, I've done a couple of productions for New York Classical. I did The Fool in King Lear for them, which was my second time as the Fool, which is still one of my favorite roles and one of my favorite plays. And then I also did... I played Gremio, the wealthy old suitor, in Taming of the Shrew. And that's where I met Sean Haggerty. He directed that production. Well, lo and behold, we stayed in touch, and Sean went on to found his own company in Jersey City, where he and his family live, called Shakespeare At, with the at symbol. And it's site-specific Shakespeare, which I think is a great idea. His whole mission is to perform really good productions of Shakespeare in sort of found spaces in Jersey City. And not being one to take half measures, Sean decided in 2019 he was going to do his inaugural production, and he was going to make it Hamlet. So, I mean, why not, right? Just shoot for the moon. But his schoolmate and buddy, Jonathan Forbes, was going to come over from Dublin to do Hamlet. And I ended up playing Polonius in that. And Eden Brolin, Josh Brolin's daughter, was Ophelia, and Arya Shagasemi was Laertes. I mean, the whole cast, it was just, it was another wonderful production. And we did this in this fabulous church in Jersey City. So the setting was gorgeous. And it was very immediate. The audience was right there with us. Because we played in the middle space. It was just a big open central space.
Right.
And it was Shakespeare the way Shakespeare ought to be done, which is to say that Sean had done a really good edit of the play, because who wants to sit through a 4-hour Hamlet?
Sure.
He did a really good cutting, and he knows his stuff. He's quite a Shakespeare scholar as well as a good director. So we were in great hands, and it was a great company, and we just kind of ran with it. And it ended up selling out. It was a big hit production, and it really put Shakespeare on the map in a very big way. And I was thrilled because Sean is a wonderful person, and I really like working with him. But also, I sort of hit the point in my life. It's like, yeah, it's probably time for me to play Polonius.
Right.
You know, it's one of those roles I knew was waiting for me when I, got to be of a certain age. And to have Eden and Arya as my stage children, I couldn't have been a luckier parent. It was very easy to love them because, golly whiskers, they're lovely people and they're brilliant actors. And Jonathan is he's such a wonderful actor, and he was such a good Hamlet, and he's also a hoot and a half. So we all had, it's like, yeah, it's Shakespeare, but when Shakespeare is done well, it's thrilling and incredibly, you don't think about the language at all. The story is clear as a bell. And I really feel like we achieved that because the audiences were like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I just think that's, there's a lot of lame Shakespeare stuff being done out there, but Sean knows his stuff and he brings in people. It's like the Gotham people, you bring in people who will deliver.
Right.
And who have the training, because you can't just pick up Shakespeare and do it.
No, you can't.
Unless you're extraordinarily gifted. And now with COVID, with all this craziness, we were about to start rehearsals for Romeo and Juliet. And Arya was going to be Romeo, and I had agreed to play Friar Lawrence.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, we had this. I mean, it was going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And then Jonathan was going to come back in the fall and do the Scottish play.
Sure.
So that's what 2020 was supposed to be for Shakespeare at. And the announcements were going out. The graphics were done and starting to be circulated. And then COVID hit, and we were like, oh, I guess we're going to postpone the start of rehearsals. And then we postponed, and we one thing led to another, and we're like, okay, clearly we need a plan B.
Right.
And, to his credit, Sean just sat down and he said, okay, I want to keep creating art. I know all these artists who are really talented all over the world at this point who should be working and who should be doing Shakespeare specifically. And so he came up with this great idea of Shakespeare at home. Doing radio play versions, and this is something your listeners might really get a kick out of.
Sure.
Radio play adaptations of classic Shakespeare plays. So the first one we did was Richard II, starring a fellow who is currently starring as the grown-up Harry Potter in London. Jamie. And again, it was just an amazing cast, and because we ended up doing the whole thing on Zoom, literally recording Shakespeare on Zoom with Emmy-winning sound designers on the call with you. It was pretty surreal, but they really knew their stuff.
Wow.
And Richard II was a great play to pick as far as storylines, because it's about a ruler who's really not a good ruler, and the country has to figure out how to get rid of him, which seems, timely. So this amazing audio production of Richard II got put together, and the sound team, really, Dan and Ellen, they're extraordinary. If you listen, and it's all free. These are entirely free. You can go to Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or SoundCloud or whatever, and just look for Shakespeare app. Richard II is in 4 episodes, I think. And I play Duke of York in that, which is a great role. Another, I keep playing advisors to, like, the boss. In this case, the boss is a king, but it's, there's a parallel there. But then Dan and Ellen added all of this ambient sound so that you can hear by the echo in the room that we're talking in, whether we're standing in, like, the throne room, or whether we're in a tavern, or whether we're standing outside, or whatever. The sonics are amazing. It's like you're listening to a movie. You are there.
Wonderful.
Shakespeare. It is. It's really good.
Wow.
And that went over so well that Sean was like, okay. And we had this wonderful older actor, David Hargreaves, from over in London, RSC. And Sean knew him from when he trained over in London as well. And David had always wanted to play Prospero. And so our second production, which just came out, is The Tempest. And again, you've got people. Jonathan was in this one playing Caliban. He was over in Dublin. David was in London. Our Miranda, Alice Marks, came. She was phoning in, if you will, or zooming in from Australia. It was crazy. We were literally from all over the world putting that together. And my husband and I just finished listening to the 3 episodes, and it's magical. It's so beautifully done. And it gives me hope that it's like, okay, we can't entertain people in theaters right now, and even getting TV and film going is slow. But theater's just a non-starter right now. So to think that something like this is out there, and for free.
Oh, yeah.
I really hope more people hop on board and listen to it, because they're wonderful adventures. And I think people will be pretty surprised and delighted at how rich the experience is without the visuals, because you get to imagine it all in your head.
Yeah. It really sounds like it. This is just amazing. And we're finding ways to create during these times. I have a feeling once the restrictions are lifted and it's really safe to proceed again, I have a feeling things are just going to come roaring back like crazy, because so many people have been sitting around making plans and just really itching to get back out there and everything. I have a feeling we're going to have a cultural explosion in this country like we've never seen before, and I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can and everything. Let me ask you, this is something that we kind of have a little bit of fun with here on the show.
Oh, dear.
Okay, and I promise I won't embarrass you, because I'm going to put the ball in your court and you can say whatever you want, okay? One thing that I usually ask for fun is about war stories, okay? Has anything during a performance of yours gone so incredibly wrong, or have you had any disasters on stage? I ask bands a lot of times if they've ever had any Spinal Tap moments. Is there anything you'd like to share with us? I'll tell you, and I'll tell you what. If you need to think about it, I can tell you one of mine.
I mean, I know some.
Yeah.
Some of them I won't repeat.
Okay.
Heaven knows we have all had them.
Right.
The things that just go wrong. And sometimes it's a performer, and sometimes it's something technical.
Yeah.
There's been quite a few.
If you're not comfortable answering,
there's absolutely one I can share with you. But this is going back a while. I was playing Mozart in a production of Amadeus.
Oh, okay.
Which was, just a dream role for a young actor, and I'm so grateful that I got a chance to play it the one time that I did. But there was a bug, a stomach bug going around when that production was going on. And as far as I knew, the day of this particular performance, everything was A-okay. Somebody was one of the, because there's all these court men that Mozart kind of annoys or pisses off or alienates in the course of, his time in front of the royalty. So there are individual scenes where he sort of runs afoul of one or the other of them. And as it was, this is a production where I don't even play the piano, much less the harpsichord.
Right.
So we had a very convincing looking harpsichord that was rigged to, play, and the audio was coming from the harpsichord, although it was not my fingers doing the magic. But it was all, it was pre-recorded stuff, and it was only finite things. It's not like you could just sit down at the keyboard and improvise. And heck, I was playing Mozart, so what are the chances I was going to sit down and just suddenly rip off some Mozart? It wasn't going to happen. But basically what happened is I found myself on stage, and it's just me and the harpsichord. And this other guy, one of the barons, is supposed to come in, and basically I unintentionally insult the heck out of him, and he gets really annoyed and tells me off, and things start to go south. Except I'm out there with my harpsichord, and he doesn't come on. And there's no one else on stage to talk to. So I'm like, okay, And so I thought, and I'm like, I can't go over to the harpsichord because it's not real.
Right.
There's nothing else on stage for me to do here. And, I'm indoors. I can't admire the stars or anything else like that. So, and so I realized very quickly that something was wrong because this entrance was simply not happening. And so I paced about in my outrageous Mozart outfit, and I finally decided that something was wrong enough that we were just going to have to fill or hope that something was going to happen, something good was going to happen. And so I just started playing the scene as if he was there, but as if I was making fun of him. So when it was his line, thank heavens I knew his lines, I would just stand where he was supposed to stand, and I'd pretend I was being him. So it became like Mozart was making fun of the Baron by playing the Baron as well as playing himself.
Oh, okay.
And so we were like halfway through the scene with me playing both roles. And then finally, this guy came on stage, and he was deathly pale, and I was like, oh my gosh. The stomach flu had obviously claimed him. And he saw what I was doing, and the look on his face was, one of A, I've just been violently ill, and B, what on earth are you doing?
Right.
And yet he got it in a heartbeat. He understood what was going on, and I just said my next line to him instead, and we picked up the scene, and we played the scene, and we got off, and and happily he got better quickly after that. But those things happen, and you're just like, okay, this is live theater.
Yeah. Yep.
There's no one else out there who can help you, so you got to just help yourself.
Yep, absolutely. Are you game to hear one of mine real quick?
Sure.
Okay. Now, again, my background and, up until maybe about a decade ago has been playing in bands. Okay. And I'd never acted before at all. I was, my first, I did some stuff when I was a kid, like the church Christmas play and that kind of thing. But, when I, went out for my, first, theater role, and this is where I met my wife, by the way, too, during this production, I, got a part in Jesus Christ Superstar as in the Apostles Chorus. I was giving a coworker a ride home one night, and he said, you sing, right? You play. I said, yeah. And he goes, you can sing, can't you? And I said, sure. And he said, well, we're auditioning for Jesus Christ Superstar. And I said, I've always wanted to try out and be in a play. And he said, all right, well, come on out for auditions. So I, learned, a couple of songs, and I got, ensemble, which I was fine with.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up getting also cast, we do the, look at all my trials and tribulations. And then after that part, the apostles go away. And then I ended up being one of the Romans, the one that, brought Christ in and out to King Herod and in and out to, Pontius Pilate. And then I did the 39 lashes. Okay. And so we put Jesus up on it was like a wooden box with a gallows that we put his arms attached to, lightly tied, and so I started the 1, 2, and it was somewhere around 13, the whole thing fell over and he's laying on the floor.
Oh no!
And he wasn't hurt, but I had to keep beating him, So I had about 18 or 20 more lashes to go.
Talk about beating a good man when he's down.
Exactly. So finally the 39 lashes are over, and I went back over to my position to stand at attention. And then, so he's laying on the floor, and I looked over and I noticed the bottom of his sandals said "Hush Puppies" real big. And it was theater in the round, so it wasn't
no.
So everybody probably saw it. And so I'm trying not to laugh. And then, I mean, the thing is, the sandals looked great from the top, and as he was intended to wear them, and how they were intended to be seen, but not when you show the underneath of it. It said "Hush Puppies" or whatever the brand. Dear. I think it was Hush Puppies, whatever the brand was.
Talk about product placement.
I know. But and I've had a few other ones over the years, But like I said, since I got into this, I've been really blessed, and it's just been a wonderful experience. A hell of a lot more good than bad, and I can't complain. So what would you like to shamelessly plug right now? Because we're going to have to wrap it up in just a couple minutes here.
Sure.
Plug and be as shameless as you want to be.
No, I have to say, although I'm quite capable of being shameless, there's nothing to be particularly shameless about right now. There'll be more from Shakespeare at, so I would say keep an eye on that.
Okay.
Because we've got those 2 audio play productions out there, Richard II and The Tempest. And they're really good.
Right.
So that's a whole lot of fun. And especially with the pandemic going on, I'm working on writing some short screenplays and things like that myself. But I know that we will have more stuff coming down the road from Shakespeare at. And hey, it's free.
Absolutely.
And you can't beat free, good theater,
Wonderful. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for being on Fowl Players Radio this evening. It's been a real pleasure having you and getting a chance to catch up with you after all this time.
Yeah,
and
I know. It's been a while. It's been weird how time is just a strange thing right now, but it is weird how fast it flies.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, again, wonderful to talk to you again. I'm glad, things are well and you're doing okay. And I look forward to seeing more from you, as soon as this crazy pandemic is over with. I'll definitely be keeping my eyes out for you and everything. So thanks again.
Likewise.
Thanks again. And thank you all for listening. This was Andrew Sellon on Fowl Players Radio, and we'll see you next time.
This podcast is part of the SJ Network. Go to s-j-network.com for more great podcasts and for contact information on publicist Steve Joyner.